I mean, he's all things of the NFL draft. He's all things of the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe we'll find out that he's all things in another topic. But Voch Lombardi, who called me an old man, as you just saw, called me an old man the last time he was here, but I am a forgiving sort, right? Thank God we're in the forgiveness business. So, Voch, welcome back, my friend. Nice smile on your face there, although you look like you got I know you're an hour behind us, but you look like you got a different kind of mood feel there. Is that because the Cowboys finally lost a game?
Paul, good morning, first and foremost. Thank you so much for everybody over there. Thanks to everybody watching. I have been up for a while, but when it's time to work, it's time to work. I'll rest, in July or something like that. But it is definitely time to be up and at 'em. I'm just in a generally good mood. Mostly when Cowboys lose and it's a very what I would call a valid loss. Yeah, sure, I would be upset. My phone would be off. I don't want to talk to anybody, and there's going to be a lot of people calling and tweeting me to talk their little noise and their little mess about my Cowboys losing. But I just feel in such a mood today. Let me just take over your show. Let me get focused real quick.
Go ahead. It's all yours.
Let's get focused. So this is what I've been dealing with, right? And this is what I love about the YouTube space. YouTube is this niche type space where people can come to and they can find the exact type of information that they're looking for. I'm not poo-pooing on any kind of national broadcast, but I do think there comes with a lot of nonsense when you try to be mass appealing. So there was this thing that Cowboy fans were going through. It was this whole Dak Prescott versus Cooper Rush debate. Yeah, Cooper Rush will win in this Bengals game. He'll win versus the Washington Football Wizards and the Giants and the Rams, and all of a sudden there's this air quote quarterback controversy. And I hate that because Dak Prescott does not deserve that, right? And it doesn't matter what numbers you bring, because I'm film guy. I will show you plays of my proof and my science proving my point. No matter how much film, numbers, information you bring to the table, there will always be a naysayer that's rolling with the nonsense. People can say that the earth is flat, but they can build some type of evidence to make somebody prove it. But when the science, when the science gets here, it turns out to be nonsense. Last night was flat earth science. Last night was the science that looks everybody in the face and goes, there's no way you can continue to believe that the earth is flat. Here's the information right here. Shouts out to Cooper Rush. I do not want to say any bad things about Cooper Rush because defending Dak Prescott, I've had to do that the past 4 or so weeks. But that dude has done nothing but kept the Cowboys in playoff contention. And I don't want to say a bad thing about him, but your watch has ended. I am proud of that dude. Dak Prescott is back. And that's probably why I have a smile on my face. I never was the guy to say, oh, well, look at Cooper Rush is doing with this team. I was always the guy to say, man, look at what this team is doing with Cooper Rush. Now you add Dak Prescott and my Cowboys they're on their way. So yes, I have a smile on my face, Thom.
You know what? And I think you're 100% spot on. The good news is you tell me because you follow it more closely, but I just go by what I'm reading. It looks like there's a good chance that Dak Prescott comes back in Week 7 against the Detroit Lions, right?
That's the plan. That's the look. Dak Prescott threw 40 passes in the pregame versus the Eagles or whatever. And, it wasn't anything. We're not throwing, 9 routes. We're not throwing out and ups or anything like that. We're just getting the feel for the passes. And the ball has zip on it. The grip looks good, but they didn't want to rush Dak out there. And to be fair, that's because of Cooper Rush. Thank you, Cooper Rush, because the Cowboys are 4-1 going into Week 6. So we don't have to rush Dak Prescott back. So he's going to be fully healthy for the Lions, and that's when Dak will make his return.
All right, the Eagles, they get the win last night over Dallas. They're 6-0. What are your thoughts on that team? You're watching film. I'm guilty as charged. I'm not sitting around watching game film on the Philadelphia Eagles, but at the end of the day, they're the only unbeaten team left in the NFL. How would you stack them up on what you've seen against teams, say, like Buffalo?
So,
well, the shade's coming on for that? What does that mean? Or is that a thing you do on your show when the shades come on that means something's happening?
This means some honesty is about to happen. It could be some uncomfortable honesty. And sometimes when I get real honest like this, people want to look me in the eye and be like, Voch, there's no way that's the case. No, but I got to put these so they don't look me directly in the eye when I say it. This is a quarterback league, right? quarterback league, and I understand that, Geno Smith is tearing things up right now, but over the course of the season, the guys that are going to win are the guys that can typically pass the football and play defense whenever they want to.
Yep.
So when you say Buffalo Bills, when you say Kansas City Chiefs, those dudes are up here. And they're going to be able to sustain that over the course of the season, right? Because they have that formula. Luckily for the Eagles, they don't have a great schedule, but they do have a great defense. They do have a great run game. But I think there's some treachery afoot when we look at the Eagles. They don't score a whole bunch of second half points, and I thought that was interesting. I was looking at, some of the games that they played. I got it in my notepad here. I was just looking at some of the games that they played. I'm like, man, when they played the Washington Football Wizards, they scored no points in the second half. 9 versus the Jags, 14 versus the Lions. They got the worst defense. 0 versus the Vikings, 6 versus the Cardinals, and 6 versus my beloved Cowboys. I'm like, why can't the Eagles score in the second half? And I'm like, what's going on with these guys? I think they have a very opportunistic defense, and I think, when teams try to take this wrong approach versus their defense, they try to avoid the interior. I think they kind of get in trouble with some of the outside stuff going on. Darius Slay is a fantastic corner, but I think if you just run directly at that defense that's been touted as a fantastic run defense, I think you're going to run into some trouble. I think teams avoid that because Fletcher Cox is in there, Jordan Davis is in there, and Hargrave is in there. But last night, the Cowboys just kind of ran at that front, and Cooper Rush, he wasn't good enough to do anything with it. But but Zeke got crazy versus some of those.
I got to tell you, that's what I was going to ask you. I got to tell you, a lot of people have wondered about Ezekiel Elliott, and obviously he's got a huge following here in Ohio, and his unbelievable career at Ohio State led him to a national championship. He looked really good last night to me. He looked 100%. Powerful. He looked quick. He looked decisive. He looked fast. He looked good.
Now Zeke just didn't roll out the bed fast and explosive when he haven't been that way. I just think that there may be something to this Eagles defense that we don't. But let me give the Eagles credit, though. They're much better than what they were. But I think the big key here, the biggest key to my pessimism, is Jalen Hurts. So my biggest lead into this whole thing was I thought that Jalen Hurts was a phony in the passing game. And to be fair, he is, because going into this game, Jalen Hurts and Cooper Rush had thrown the same amount of touchdown passes, right? So I'm like, let's just make Jalen Hurts throw the football and let's see what happens. And we made Jalen Hurts throw the football last night, and he only had 155 some odd yards. It's because Jalen Hurts is still doing that Jalen Hurts thing where he gets to the first read and it's not there, and then he gets stuck trying to diagnose, and he holds the football and either runs or gets caught for a sack. Well, he didn't have a whole bunch of opportunity to run around, or so he did the whole get hit thing. He did the whole dump off thing. He did the whole let me get the ball to AJ Brown and he saves me with yak yards thing. I think the league learned a lot of lessons about the Eagles last night, to where the Cowboys could give the ball away 4 times, to where they can give the Eagles offense positive field 4 times, to where a backup quarterback is playing and the Cowboys get 100 yards and penalties. And it still wasn't a double-digit game. I'm not saying this to be a salty Cowboy fan or anything, because I think the Week 16 matchup with Cowboys versus Eagles is going to be much different. But I can say that if the league watches film, they probably learned something about the Eagles last night.
All right, then I want to get to you before I let you go, because I have debated this with guys when I was doing the NFL in games every week. Dak Prescott. Love the guy as a human being. He seems like he's a totally top of his game kind of kid you'd love for your daughter to date. He's that kind of guy, right? He's a talented quarterback. He's done a lot of good things in this league. But do you think he's a guy you can win with? And come on now, Voch. You got to you might want to put those sunglasses on.
So when you say win-win, and when we have this conversation,
win-win. Get you to a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. Do you believe that the Dak Prescott is that kind of guy?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because the evidence shows you that if the situation is any kind of adequate, that Nick Foles can win a Super Bowl for you, or Jimmy Garoppolo can go to a Super Bowl for you, or just pick a guy that's not the best quarterback in the league, right? If we take this conversation, it takes an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl for you, then the last few quarterbacks that'll win it for you would only be like these Pat Mahomes types or these Josh Allen types. All kinds of quarterbacks. Joe Burrow can go to a Super Bowl, then come back the next year and look whatever he want to look like. Matthew Stafford can go win a Super Bowl and come back the next year and look absolutely horrible. I think it's more so about your surroundings. And we're having this conversation about Dak. Will I say that Dak is elite or a Josh Allen type or a Pat Mahomes type? No, but I think we live in a world to where we throw around elite so much that we assume that the dudes aren't elite, aren't good. Dak Prescott may not be elite, but he's fantastic. And no matter what quarterback metric you're looking for, Dak Prescott is top 5 in that quarterback metric, even since he's been in the league. So now we get to this point to where, okay, well, can he win the Super Bowl? Well, if you take Dak Prescott, plus sign this defense that before last night we haven't given up 20 points at all. You take that team and you put that with Dak Prescott, of course you can. If you take a look at Dak Prescott, let's say playoffs versus the Packers, right? Dak Prescott put up 31 points against Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers put up 34. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't score 20, hell, Dak Prescott, he is rewritten in history, right? So this is a team sport, and we've learned this. Hey, when you win, that credit goes to the quarterback. When you lose, that credit goes to the quarterback. It doesn't matter what this defense has done. When the Cowboys win, we say Cooper Rush won. That hadn't been the case. So when we talk about Dak Prescott, when the Cowboys have these tough losses, you say Dak Prescott lost, but if you look at the numbers, Dak played well in those games. Just that the defense or the surrounding characters, and Dak's not perfect, but there's a lot of context needed with conversation like that. But to answer your question, if Jimmy Garoppolo can do it, 100% Dak Prescott can do it.
Okay. Before I let you go, where and why did you come up with the Washington Football Wizards?
Because the Commanders is not a good name, and I refuse to call them that.
Did you like the Redskins?
I was a youngster when that was going on, and I didn't really get the whole idea of it. So I just kind of grew up with it, and it is what it is. I mean, it's their name. It was the historical name, so it is what it is. But when they changed it to the football team being a rival, of course I'm going to make fun of that. You don't even have a name. You're the football team. And then when they decided to change their name to a name that's worse than the football team, they should have just kept the football team over Commanders. So I'm just going to opt to call them Washington Football Wizards from now on. I'm never going to change it.
Do you watch, before I let you go, you watch much college football, do you?
I love college football. I think it's better than pro football, honestly.
Yeah, I do too. I just said that a little while ago. I just said the same thing a little while ago. And after this weekend, I've got family ties down there to TCU. Horned Frogs got it going on. It's fun to watch. That Sonny Dykes can coach him up now.
100%. And I think a lot of people look at college as the portal for who the next guy, who the who's who on the next level is going to be, right? I don't look at it that way. I look at college football as its own thing. I think it's the only place where, no matter what bowl game, it could be Eastern Illinois versus Northwestern Texas Junior College. If those teams are generally even, you can get a good game out of it, right? I can watch any one of these ranked teams go against each other, and you'll get a top tier product. USC versus Utah was fantastic last week. I would much rather watch that than Jacksonville versus Indy or something.
Not even debatable. In fact, I think the argument could be easily made that the Tennessee-Alabama game was far more enjoyable to watch than all the hype and the buildup of the Bills-Chiefs playing yesterday.
And I think that's the case because they're not pro football players. And if you have all pro football players, the game gets a little more clean. And of course, if anything gets clean, it gets less fun. That's like we can watch a boxing match, right? If we're watching two boxers, those dudes are pro level boxers. And sometimes what they're doing in there, it could be so nuanced that the average eye can't catch it. But we'll love to go out to some Buffalo Wild Wings and two dudes fight each other. Like we can still find entertainment in that, right? So when people make the argument of, oh, well, those kids aren't pro level players, the game's not as clean, I look at that as the advantage. So so college football is this pool of the best athletes in the world, also mixed in with dudes that are going to be security guards and accountants in 5 years or whatever. And you put that together, and you have to find matchups, no matter what, where that matchup is, offensive line, D-line, cornerback, whatever, quarterback, whatever that combination is, that algorithm for your team, it makes your team unique. And there may be 500 college football teams, but everybody's algorithm is unique. Alabama's been the champion for the past 10 or so years, but every 2 years they look like a different team. That's what's so dope about college football. Yeah, it's the algorithm of guys.
There's no doubt. Voch, you are the man. I appreciate the new nickname, which I'll carry with me, Paw Paw. That's what I called my grandfather growing up. So I like that nickname. So if I can carry on that nickname, I will take it especially coming from a cat like you. I can live with that.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you. Voch Lombardi on all platforms, and I'll see you later on The Volume at 3 p.m. Central. Salute.
You're the man. Voch Lombardi, kind enough to join us from down Texas in the Lone Star State. Cowboys got Dak coming back.